Hey everyone, welcome to Digital Worship. I'm Pastor John Corollas, and it's great to be with you as we gather together as the family of believers here at Shepherd of the Desert. Whether you're right here with us in Scottsdale or coming in from somewhere else, we are thankful for the opportunity to walk with you in faith. And right now we're walking in joyful anticipation, expectation to celebrate the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem on Christmas Eve in just a couple of days. But we do have time in this final fourth week of Advent, of anticipation, of getting ready to celebrate, of looking forward to hear the promises of God regarding His chosen one, regarding His Messiah, and what that person, what that individual would bring to His people who were in great need. Today we're hearing from our fourth prophet in this fourth week, the prophet of Micah. Micah was a contemporary of Isaiah, so it was about the 8th century BC. 700-800 years before Jesus came into the world, the people of Israel were, they were being neglected by their leaders. They were being led astray by false prophets, and there was also the threat of attack and of exile on the horizon. And so as this prophet of God in Micah was speaking to the people of God, he also was speaking specifically toward those who had that power, those who were in positions of influence, those who spoke words to the great number of people that were living there in Jerusalem, which is where he did a lot of his work. So if you were to read through the book of Micah, you'd come across, again, words of harsh judgment, words of instruction, words of critique, particularly toward those who were neglecting their duties to share the truth of God's word, to look out for the needs of the people beneath them, and sadly taking advantage of those who were less powerful, less successful, less financially stable than those in those positions of authority. So as Micah is giving those words of judgment, then toward the end of the book, in the 5th chapter, we get this glimpse, kind of a message to the people who wouldn't be categorized as those with influence, those with power. This is to the regular people. And it's a promise of someone who is coming who will almost make up for the neglect of the leaders that are failing the people at that time, those who are leading them further into disobedience rather than drawing them closer into the right relationship with God. And so Micah says there will be one who comes who will restore and reestablish that connection you have with God, and he will remember you. So as we consider the gift that changed the world in Jesus himself, we are considering today the gift of being remembered. And I'll share a little bit more about that, because when I think about this particular promise, some familiar language comes to us from Micah chapter 5. I'm going to read to you a couple of verses. We're using the English Standard Version because oftentimes that captures the poetic nature of prophecy a little bit better than other translations we use. So Micah 5, 2-4 says, "But you, O Bethlehem, Ephrathah, you who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. Therefore he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor has given birth. Then the rest of his brothers shall return to the people of Israel, and he shall stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall dwell secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth." So here's this message to the people of Jerusalem, the people of Judah, and even specifically to this little village outside of Jerusalem, a few miles away, 5 to 10 miles away from Jerusalem, to this little community of Bethlehem. And in the 8th century BC, it certainly was a little town. And if you remember your Old Testament history, you know that there is someone who comes from Bethlehem before Micah, someone who was born there, the city of who? The city of David, King David. Bethlehem is the city of David, where he came from, where he was anointed. And so when I think about a city like that, particularly at that time, I'll be honest, and this may not be the best comparison, but for me it resonates because it makes me think a little bit about my hometown and the communities surrounding my hometown. I come from the small community called Antigo in northern Wisconsin, and it's not so tiny that there isn't department stores or fast food chains, but around it, in a radius of about 5 to 10 miles, there are plenty of little communities, some of them unincorporated, some of them just named after a pair of cross streets or a family that was influential at some time in the past. And in those little communities, I think you get a little bit more of a sense of what Bethlehem might have felt like at that time. Here's Bethlehem. Sure, they had been the birthplace of a famous ruler of hundreds of years ago, but as time went on and people moved on and the narrative continued and populations came and went, sleepy little towns sometimes get left in the margins. They sometimes are forgotten. And the people who live there appreciate them, but oftentimes, others either don't even know they exist or they drive so quickly through them that it doesn't cross their mind that a community of real people who actually live there and build their lives there existed and is there. And so Bethlehem might have felt a little bit like that, the drive-through town, the town that there's maybe a word for on the road sign, but as you take the state highway north or south, you don't turn off to go through into one of those little towns. Instead, you keep going to whatever that destination might be. Bethlehem, I think, might have felt a little bit like that. And for there to be a prophecy of promising that out of that place, there will be one who will come forth, who will arrive, who will lead and rule God's people in a way that fills in for, in a way that is substantially more significant than the way their rulers and their religious leaders and their prophets are treating them now. There would be something special. There would be something unique. There would be something to be proud of as someone who's from that place. And what is this promise? What does this mean? For a little place like that, for people, from there who desire to be remembered, but, are comfortable with the reality that they'll likely be forgotten, there is this power in the story, power in the promise. They will be remembered because from them will come a righteous ruler. From them will come someone who will stand in the place God has established for them to shepherd His people, that they might dwell secure under His reign. If you remember, David was kind of a forgotten son himself, the namesake of that town of Bethlehem. David was the youngest of his brothers. In fact, he wasn't even a part of the line of them when their father presented them to the prophet to be anointed as king of Israel. And so they had to call out to David, who was out in the fields in the distance. They had to bring him in from his work so that he would be the one who was anointed and uplifted. He would be the one that would be the righteous ruler for God's people. And so this promise to Bethlehem is a little bit like that promise to David, and I wonder if there isn't a little bit of a promise for you and I in there as well. Sometimes we get tempted to want to make a name for ourselves. We want to establish the memory of ourselves so that people won't forget us. I'm not sure what your insecurity might be. I know I'm familiar with my own insecurities, and they've changed at different times over the years. Maybe in high school or college you just want to be kind of cool enough. You're not looking to be in charge of the school or to be the most popular person, but you do want to fit in enough so that you're not noticed for being left out. And as you grow a little bit older, you want to just at least be taken seriously. You don't want to be treated like, the new staff member or the person that doesn't know anything, the inexperienced, kind of green member of the team. You just want to be taken seriously. You just want to be trusted. And as you grow older, other fears start to creep in. What about that particular health scan? What are the results of that test going to be? Can I take care of my family? Am I going to be there for my kids? Am I working hard enough that they won't have to worry about things? Can I keep them safe? And as life continues to go on, those fears and insecurities all seem to develop as we grow older. But one thing that seems to hold secure is that we all don't want to face the reality of our own being forgotten. We want to be remembered, at least by our family, at least by our friends. We don't want to be just another nobody or nameless individual that passes from this life into the next, and that's it. We want to be remembered. And so we're tempted to make a name for ourselves. But what we hear in this story, what we hear in this prophecy, in this promise, is that you will be remembered. If Bethlehem is remembered, if David was remembered, and if that righteous ruler who will make sure you dwell secure under his reign actually came in that baby boy in Bethlehem, then surely he will remember you too. See, we don't need to be afraid of whether people will remember or forget us. We don't need to be afraid of what our story will be that we create for ourselves. We don't need to worry and be anxious about creating that for ourselves in this life, because He has given us a story. God has given us a story and a ruler and a righteous one that we might dwell secure under His reign. In Jesus we have a ruler. In Jesus we have a shepherd. In Jesus, we are remembered by God because He created us, He crafted us, He made us and designed us specifically for a path in life that He has established, that He has laid out. He has a call for you. He has a plan for you and for me. And when we remember that He is the one that gives that to us, and He has proven it through His faithfulness by delivering one from Bethlehem to be a righteous ruler for His people, to shepherd them that they might dwell securely in His Son Jesus, then we can remember and trust in that same promise for us too. You know, you might think that the chances of a baby born in a tiny town like Bethlehem 2,000 years ago, the chances for that one being remembered are pretty small. In fact, I don't know any other babies that were born in Bethlehem at all over the last 2,000 years, if not even longer. But that little one who is too small to be remembered actually remembers you. Christ knew as he was going through His earthly life and doing His earthly work in creating a way for us to be saved by His sacrifice, as He has ascended into heaven and sits at the glorious right hand of God, He looks down and He remembers you. He looks at you and sees a brother or a sister that He loves, one that He has redeemed, one that He won't soon forget. And so whatever the insecurity or fear that might be that arises in your heart, when you consider the harsh realities of this life, remember that God has provided His own Son for you, that you would be remembered, that you are loved, that you are cared for. And you have received that gift of being remembered, and you can step into the future no longer afraid of who might know you and who might not, of what you can control and what you can't control, of what's going to happen after you've done everything you can to make a name for yourself or to establish the security of those who come after you. Jesus remembers you, and He will remember those who come after you. And there will be a day where we are gathered together in His presence for eternity, looking at one another and recognizing in each other the true love of Christ, and we will spend forever in glorious harmony and service of God in heaven. That's a true gift. That's a true comfort. And that is what the gift it is to be remembered by the God who loves us. I hope you have a great week. I hope that He blesses and keeps you, that He would guide you, that He would give you wisdom. And as you celebrate the holidays, that you would be able to share that great love that you've experienced with those around you, that you'd be able to receive that same encouragement from their experiences of God's love. And take some time, whether it be Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, to say a prayer of thanks, to say a prayer of recognition of who God is and what He has done, and to ask for Him to continue to lead you into the year ahead. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Merry Christmas.